Never blank enough. Never blank enough. Did you fill that in? I won't tell if you did. It's easy to do, and it's all too easy to reinforce. I don't know about you, but I notice I'm getting better at this. You notice every time you repeat a mistake, like, oh, why did I do that again? Even if sometimes you don't make the mistake, or even if most of the time you don't make the mistake, but sometimes you do, and you're like, oh, never blank enough, whatever it is. Social scientist Brene Brown notes that this sentence is part of her discussion on scarcity. It's in her book, Daring Greatly. It's a powerful book. And she writes, scarcity thrives in a culture where everyone is hyper aware of lack. Scarcity thrives in a culture where everyone is hyper aware of lack. I don't know about you, but that's a whoa statement. You're whoa. Now, most of us, we're on a journey. We realize we've practiced, we've noticed stories and experiences and patterns of lack in our lives, right? We've already done work to heal some of those habits and ideas. We go, oh, wow, that's a limiting thought. But the experience, or the appearance of lack, well, it's tricky, it's pervasive. And more often than we might like to admit, we can make these things about not enoughness about ourselves. The mountain we didn't climb, the laugh we didn't get, the friendship we lost, the choice, the what ifs, the what abouts. Why didn't I realize that sooner? Heard that one a few times. But, Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I would say the comparison is also one of the drivers of not enoughness. Now, you hear people point at social media or the media or advertisers as the culprit, and they are a vehicle. Now, and some people point to a generation younger than themselves and say, they're the problem. But all of that is deflecting from the deeper roots. And so if we're busy pointing fingers, we don't actually look deeper, right? And I would say that since the phrase keeping up with the Joneses has been around for more than 100 years, I think we can safely say that it's not people of us under a certain age's fault. Unless, it's all of us. People have been comparing themselves to others and finding themselves lacking for a very long time. Now, we can compare ourselves to others in healthy ways. I have had times of contemplation when I've looked at a certain aspect I admire in someone I know and used that as a guidepost for my own life. I said, wow, they really respond to things going on in their life with a peace or an unflappableness, or the way that person has a relationship with this other person in their life is really a goal for me. I would like to have that. And if you can say, oh, that's something I'm looking for, then you can use that as a guidepost. That's a great thing. That's a great way to use. It's not comparison in putting myself down way. And competition can be good too. Just yesterday at snowshoe practice, we had some smoking races. Woo, things were exciting out there on the snowshoe track. And would they have pushed themselves if they were racing alone? Would they have pushed themselves if they were, on the track with someone who was very different in their speed? Probably not. You get excited for that last push when you're racing somebody, right? Now, in Special Olympics, we focus on doing our personal best, even as our fellow athletes challenge us to excel. But in the end, focusing on doing our best is the way to knowing enough. We do our best. It's not about comparison to someone else. We don't need to have shame or embarrassment over what we haven't done. And we don't have to achieve something to be worthy of love. You can do whatever achieving you want because it's your heart's desire. It's your heart's desire to do whatever that is. Not because, well, so-and-so did it, so now I have to do it. One comes out of your heart's desire. One comes out of needing to be enough. You don't have to achieve something to be worthy of love. You are enough. And that made me think of the way that Jesus called the disciples. He didn't say, "Oh, Simon, you've really worked hard this quarter. Let's make you the top guy. Give you a special parking spot." He just said, "Follow me." I presume that he said it to a lot of people, because we know, of course, that what's written in the Gospels is the shortened version of what happened, and told through many stories and lenses. We know that and some people decided to follow him and some didn't. He didn't ask for a resume or a 5-page theological essay. And believe me, in my process of getting to be ordained and further studies, I do get to fill out those kind of things. Jesus didn't ask for any of that, which is good because most of them were illiterate, so that would have been difficult. He just said, set aside what you're doing. Let go of the things that are distracting you and come with me. Walk the spiritual journey. And yes, they were physically going with him, but you could see that as a setting aside of the distractions, the things that we think we need to have, and focus on being present with spirit. Focus on being present on our spiritual journey. Following is simple, but it's not easy. Because, all those things there's lots of, we can change the consciousness of our culture away from that, right? Doing that. Jesus just said, come with me. You're enough. Come with me. You're enough. So if your heart desires to climb that mountain, then climb that mountain. Figuratively, literally, whatever. If your heart desires to do whatever the project is, to attain whatever it is, then do that. But you don't need to do those things. You don't need to pray a certain way. You don't need to follow a certain set of rules, except for the ones that come from the deepest part of your heart. Your knowing, your connection with spirit. because you are enough, just as you are. So I say, let us each know our enoughness. It's an ongoing process. Let us each know it. Let us each embrace it. Let us allow doing our personal best to be our goal, knowing that some days our personal best is resting. Some days our personal best is just doing one thing. And some days our personal best is doing a whole bunch of things, right? That's just the way it is. Be the best at taking care of you. Now there's just something to be your best at. We know, at least in our heads, let us know more in our hearts, that there's enough in the universe. We know there's enough in the universe. We know that lack is an illusion or even a delusion. Scarcity thrives in a culture where everyone is hyper aware of lack. So what if we weren't? We may notice where someone is not having their needs met and do the work to resolve that because we know there's enough. So we know that the lack or the appearance of scarcity is not the truth, the capital T truth. It's the truth in this realm. And so we do something about it because it's solvable, because it's not the truth in the biggest picture of things. We know that there is enough. And we know that we are enough. Let us release and heal the limits that we may have put on ourselves. Let us release and heal the limits that our culture or society has put on ourselves or on others. Let us release and heal the limits that we may have taken on from our experiences. We are enough. You're enough. And let us know our enoughness so deeply that the next time someone says not blank enough, all that we can think is not boring enough.